I'm CraftyAndy, and these are my thoughts. Ethan Crumbley, the latest Eugene to commit a mass school schmooting.
Shmooter.
And look where it's at, middle America. Now it's a tragedy. Now it's so sad to see an upper class city having this happening. I've been living with the reality of these mass schmootings, occurrences, for nearly all my life now. All these Eugenes are the same. They are either a doomer, as in, woe is me, nobody loves me, the world is fucked, this is the only way to leave my mark.
Every day I get even more agitated at everyone because my life is unfair.
Unfair.
It's fucked up what he did, but my god, take it to fucking DeviantArt.
Or they have delusions of grandeur and are full of hope. This will be the event that wakes up the country to the problems in our society and ultimately leads to a better world of peace and prosperity. That is why I shot your baby in the face, Mr. Germumblefuk. They're all losers. However, when it comes to schmootings at schools, I can relate to the mentality one obtains from being isolated and beaten down by their peers. I had paranoia and one suicide attempt in my elementary years, with high school being the ultimate tipping point. For hours, I would sit in front of my dad's speaker system, blasting 9-inch nails and fantasizing about getting revenge on my tormentors in the style of the movie The Final, where a bunch of students in high school roofie their peers and then torture them on live stream.
You will never, ever enjoy sex again. You will never, ever play football again. Find your wheelchair! Every time you horse yourself into that wheelchair, I want you to think of me. Smiling.
I wonder what would happen if I had access to a gun during those days. Shooting people is a lot easier than stabbing them. At the same time, I finally made the right kind of friends that would be discouraging of such thoughts, as well as reaching a level of maturity that I saw that kind of action is cringe and completely useless, especially in the grand scheme of things, which everything's useless in the grand scheme of things. We have all seen what happens too. Even when there were massive protests over the Parkland shooting in Florida.
Organizers say there are more than 3,000 planned protests across the country now.
What ultimately happened? Some bring up the access to guns. There'll be mentions of warning signs, mental health, but ultimately nothing of meaning is ever accomplished. At most, usually some piss take of a policy change, like, you can now only carry 10-round magazines instead of 20. Haha, I did a thing. What did surprise me in this case is that the parents are actually charged with manslaughter. This Eugene in Michigan got the gun he used from his parents a week before the shooting. I fucking hate the legal system and what it does to people, but my desire to see some responsibility being laid at these parents' feet overrides that by a huge margin.
We're talking about 4 felony charges of involuntary manslaughter for both parents. The details here, absolutely shocking.
If you want to see a generation of parents that actually start paying attention to the things their dumb kids are into, start punishing the parents for the things their kids do. Fuck them. Speaking of responsibility, there were 2 big media takes that baffled a whole lot of us. Inside Edition puts on its boomer goggles. Here I have a GamePro magazine from 1997 talking about Congress going after video games due to their violence, stating the rating system is not enough and it's hurting our kids. I bring this up because this whole narrative has been perpetuating for 30 years now, and Inside Edition decided to reiterate that narrative.
One post from Ethan Crumbley declares, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. See you tomorrow, Oxford." The quotation can be found in a gory video game.
I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
Not only is it fucking embarrassing to be a journalistic writer and tying that quote to a video game, as opposed to the actual source, which is a religious text made popular by the inventor of the atomic bomb, Robert Oppenheimer. It's also like having shit shoved into your ears as they go through pointing out all the video games he liked, such as Nazi Zombies and Call of Duty, and Grand Theft Auto 5.
Several years ago, Crumbley made this video showing off his collection of violent games.
Got Battlefield 4. Comment if you want to play that one.
A game that sold 140 million copies. Shall we execute the remaining 139,999,999 owners just to be safe? Then again, I know people in their 50s and 60s and older who still believe D&D leads you to worshiping Satan, and that the 80s satanic panic was a real thing with credible evidence. So I guess I can't blame Inside Edition for not changing the format when it comes to pretending to analyze school schmooters. It must really have sucked though, that time when the Virginia Tech Eugene only reportedly played early 90s Sonic the Hedgehog. Can't really sell that idea that video games played a role, though they still tried to.
Typically, the school shooters train literally on video games to do this.
Well, we know it's just a way to talk about the schmooting without actually having to talk about the actual factors behind the schmooting. Guns, parents, mental health, done.
When a lot of people ask the question, why did they do it? Why did Eric and Dylan shoot up their school? They don't actually want the answer.
Now, the other media source was The Hill, which was rather interesting. Kim Iversen does the usual lib dance of talking about gun control, but her main focus is the potential possibility that this event is going to be used to somehow demonize specifically white people.
Look at the photos of Ethan Crumbley people on social media and some media outlets are using. He's now 15, and yet they chose this angelic-looking photo from about when he was 10. What is the purpose of this when there are several other photos, like his mugshot, that could have been shown instead? This same sort of tactic is used in reverse against Black perpetrators and even victims. Rather than use their school photo of them smiling and looking like good kids, they use the meanest-looking, most aggressive photo they can find on social media to portray them as villains. They attempt to portray them as people who either obviously would commit the heinous crime they did or victims who deserved it. They do this to placate a certain bias and mindset that the audience already holds, and the same looks to be happening in this case. Showing Crumbley as this innocent-looking angelic white kid is intended to stoke fear and support a narrative that white people, no matter how nice they look, are domestic terrorists who we should all be afraid of.
Her reasoning is that because they use these photos and videos of this Eugene praying like a little angel and playing some b-ball outside of the school until he started making trouble in the neighborhood. He got in one little shootout and his parents got scared and said, "We're leaving Detroit and straight out of Michigan." Sidetrack. Get back on track. Kim Iversen, The Hill, yes. First, she makes the point that when Black and brown people are arrested, they usually just use their mugshots or some other unflattering picture as opposed to white people, who will instead have their photos that make them look more like a normal human being? Is that true common practice with every news outlet? I don't know. I imagine it's related to their political leanings. But when Kim says they use these innocent-looking photos to say that white people, no matter how nice they look, are really all potentially domestic terrorists, this is a Stretch Armstrong of a stretch. I think it's more of a possibility they saw the photo of him with his hands together and thought, that'll make for a good headline photo, considering how juxtaposed it is to what this Eugene did. And what position does that put people in? If you use some nasty mugshot photo, which it looks like a lot of news outlets are using anyways in this case, it dehumanizes them. Use a pleasant photo, then you're promoting a sinister, broad narrative about an entire type of person. It just sounds like a lose-lose situation. How about we just use their baby photos instead, alright? Carnegie police seek suspect in liquor store armed robbery. There he is. Good luck finding him, fart knockers. I see, given the right circumstances, I could have ended up like this Eugene. Now, because of parental and system failures regarding mental health treatments and gun access, this Eugene's remaining life is going to be that of mockery for the act he committed. All his social media, all his little cringy journals are going to be on display for everybody to read and fucking laugh at. And whatever personal plights he was going through, it's just going to be dismissed. Because all he brought to his little corner of the planet was a bunch of panic and death.
You're not going to be idolized. You're going to be made fun of.
And I'm sure it won't take long, if it hasn't happened already, for this whole thing to be politicized and spun around.
Because liberal school personnel should have known Crumbley had a gun, or at least had access to one, but never bothered to ask. The very reason they told his parents to come to class instead of suspending him immediately, and then they let him go right back into class.
And then it'll be forgotten within a week when the next mass shooting happens. In the end though, these are my thoughts. Got any of your own? Like, subscribe, share, give me ideas for topics and or art in the comments, or email me. CraftyAndy Patreon for high-res art, files, and sketchbook, and early episodes. Also CraftyAndy under the Art Pal store for prints and art gallery. This channel's mainly focused on entertainment and art, but if you want some real weirdness, go to the Weirdzors channel. Check that out. There is also an invite in the description for our Discord group. You can meet other creators such as myself, live streamers, gamers, artists. It's all there. Like, subscribe, share. As I said, good day.